The United States as a whole has had it rough when it comes to winter storms this year, but today we're talking about these storms in particular, the ones over the southern plains and the ones approaching the Great Lakes. How will these storms potentially affect the Northeast, as well as how will the storm in the south producing all this freezing rain and sleet continue to affect the Ohio Valley regions as it pushes up as well into the Northeast with this associated system? More to come later on this video. Welcome back to another winter weather forecast and discussion on the Royal NYR 54 channel. Hope you all are having a fantastic evening. My name is Morgan J. Fuld. This evening, we are going to be discussing the two winter storms that are currently in progress, the one over the Great Lakes, as discussed, and more particularly, at least right now, the one that is over the southern plains, currently moving through the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area and through Oklahoma City, producing all this freezing rain and sleet. With this storm in the southern plains, the main focus right now is the freezing rain that is spreading to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This is indicated by the purples going up and down your screen, basically on a southwest to northeast gradient going from about Fort Smith all the way down through the San Angelo region. So the freezing rain, as the temperatures are starting to drop over there with the nighttime, is starting to accumulate on the grounds of Dallas and Fort Worth. You can also see the sleet totals that are starting to accumulate over these areas just to the northwest of where the freezing rain is falling, like in Abilene, Texas, Ardmore, Oklahoma, as well as even areas up by McAlester and even earlier in Muskogee, but that has now since turned to snow. You can see the darker blues representing the fast accumulating snowfall over portions of Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, Lawton, as well as areas like Altus, Weatherford, and even the Tulsa area. As you get into the Great Lakes region, you can see there is definitely a winter weather event going on there, but it isn't really anything out of the ordinary. This is a frontal system that has snow on one end, snow to the north and west, and rain to the south and east. The rain is cooling these areas out in front of it. A lot of convection that is currently overspreading the areas of West Virginia, Kentucky, southern Ohio, even getting into Virginia at this point. That is going to be the key factor in determining what really happens for the Northeast when it comes to freezing rain content on Friday. More to come later on that. But you can see in general that this is a very typical Midwest winter storm. Areas of Illinois you can see up to a foot of snow in the snow reports there. For some areas of central Illinois, snow is still ongoing in central Indiana, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, northwest Ohio. So you're definitely still going to see snow totals rack up there, but shouldn't really get much above a foot. However, when we get to the Northeast, you will see that snow totals could exceed a foot in some areas, and that also will come later on in the video. At this point, we're going to take a look at the model runs. If you guys want to refer to what model we're looking at, it'll be at the top left corner of your screen here. This is the GFS, and the time frame here is going to be in Eastern Standard Time. So if you are in a different time zone other than Eastern Standard, then I'm sorry, but Weather Bell only allows me to pick one time zone here. So this is about the 1 p.m. time frame today. This is what was predicted for the 1 p.m. time frame today. You can see the snowfall ongoing in portions of northern Indiana as well as southern Michigan. This storm will push out into the Northeast region, adding some snow. But the important thing to note here upon inspection, if you guys look closely, this storm that is over the southern plains grabs onto the front and will latch and will create even more snowfall for those areas in central Illinois and northern Indiana that have already seen snowfall. In addition, you guys can see, as labeled by the purples and pinks, that there is the potential for some freezing rain as well as sleet, so some mixed wintry precipitation as well possible, with the boundary layer temperatures being warmer than freezing. The surface temperatures in front of the cold front, or rather behind the cold front, are going to be much colder than they are about 1,000 meters above the surface. So just at the boundary layer, where we're talking here, the boundary layer temperatures are going to be above freezing. So at that point, it will be coming down as rain. When it gets to the surface, however, it'll be below freezing, and it's going to come down as freezing precipitation, whether that be sleet, which is little ice crystals, or freezing rain. But the main idea to grasp here is that there's going to be widespread wintry precipitation, whether that be snow, sleet, freezing rain, across the board for the Ohio Valley for the second time in a very short period of time. As this continues, it's going to spread into the Northeast, further into the Northeast than the initial storm did. So as we progress, we're looking at the evening time frame on Thursday. You can see some heavy snow really starts to develop over portions of New York, most of New York, Northwestern Pennsylvania, see, it gets to the Great Lakes region. Buffalo gets impacted pretty well here from this storm as it's pretty close to the heaviest area of snowfall. But these areas along the line are going to see the heaviest snowfall, really along the New York-Pennsylvania border from about Binghamton west. So that's something to keep in mind if you do reside in that general region. Again, this is just the general idea. We're going to go in depth even further with the closer range model runs here shortly later on in the video. But the point here to make is that there's a lot of wintry precipitation on the table from the southern plains all the way up into the northeast. A matter of where at this point and when are the two big questions. But as you can see, the front continues to move, and slowly at that, the snowfall continues to pound those areas of New York that see it for 12 hours at that point. You can see the freezing rain and sleet continuing to progress across central Pennsylvania, southern New York, getting towards areas of northern New Jersey, western Massachusetts, western Connecticut, those interior regions that don't get as much heat at the surface as well as above are going to be the areas to watch for freezing precipitation. So changing gears, we have a different model here. This is the NAM 12 kilometer, which is the lower resolution North American model. And you can see at this time frame that we're talking about, progressing into the afternoon on Thursday, you can see a lot of heavy snow starts to take shape over the Great Lakes region. Again, central Indiana, central Ohio into northern Ohio, and then those areas of New York that we had mentioned. A lot of heavy snow overspreading that region. But in addition, you do see the purples and pinks overspreading just south of that region as well. Look at the depth of the purple colors here as you get into portions of western Tennessee all the way up into the northeast. A lot of heavy freezing rain is going to be overspreading that area, and that is the bullseye we're talking about for the freezing rain from this storm, albeit it gets to the northeast. But those areas are going to be the biggest areas to watch for the freezing rain, even though there is some that gets to the northeast. Taking a look at the total accumulated freezing rain, it is quite clear where the bullseye is, right in the Ohio Valley region, expanding all the way up into Pittsburgh, down through Memphis, where you could see an inch localized of freezing rain, which would create incredibly hazardous traveling conditions for the majority of that area. Notable population centers in this area, Cincinnati just gets to the north of it, although they should be expecting some. Memphis is definitely involved with this as well, as they could be expecting over an inch. And Louisville also potentially getting slammed here with an inch plus in this general area. Taking a look at the NAM 3K's totals for freezing rain, you can see that it's generally on the same consensus, even though it's a little bit lower in certain areas. This is a higher resolution model, so it'll be a little different, but you can still definitely see that concentrated area over the Ohio Valley where the heaviest freezing rain falls. Over an inch in most of the area, and even up to 1.5 inches in very localized areas. Now, to y'all who might also be saying, Morgan, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Northeast here, maybe over 1/2 inch. I will get to that too. There's a whole different thing to unpack with the Northeast as well as what might happen in that general area. So stay tuned for the rest of the video. The Northeast will be talked about to a significant extent. Taking a look at what the NAM 3K points out for snowfall, you can see that area that is just north of the cold front, north and west of the cold front, and the colder surface temperatures and colder boundary layer temperatures have those heavier totals of snowfall, almost getting up to a foot in localized areas from Missouri all the way up into northern Ohio, getting towards the Cleveland vicinity where it is very likely that you could see a foot of snow. And then moving forward, you take a look at the New York area that just gets absolutely slammed with a foot plus widespread, potentially even getting to up to 1.5 feet in portions in those higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire. Definitely something to note if you guys are in that general area, that you could be slammed with a lot of snow, possibly the most you've seen all season. Jumping back to the NAM 12 kilometer for a second, just to see if it is on the same general point, and it does appear that it is on the same general point. Localized areas of up to a foot of additional snow from Missouri all the way up through Cleveland. Cleveland all the way up to the north and east of that, expecting a foot plus widespread, 1.5 feet localized, and those areas of possibly even more than 1.5 feet in the higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire. Timings in which you all should be expecting this are again at the top left corner of your screen here. So as we progress, you do see the snow that pushes off towards the New York area tapers off, but as that southern storm comes up and attaches to the trough, it gets much heavier again. So you can see the Thursday morning hours of the Ohio Valley, central Illinois, central Indiana, central Ohio, southern Illinois as well. You're going to be seeing a lot of that wintry precipitation, could be affecting the morning commute to a significant extent. As you progress even further into the morning, more sleet continues. It gets heavier, as well as more freezing rain. This is a very slow-moving front, slow-moving boundary. The snow, the sleet, and the freezing rain are all going to sit over that area and get heavier for a significant amount of time. But as you start to get towards the nighttime hours here, you can see it starts to push off towards the north and east, and that's when the real event starts for New York and Pennsylvania, as well as those areas of New Hampshire and Vermont that I was talking about. Really heavy snowfall across central New York, Syracuse, Rochester vicinity. You're going to be expecting really, really heavy snowfall, possibly exceeding an inch per hour at times. As you progress through the evening, you see that a lot of the heavier snow tapers off, but more sleet and freezing rain start to come into the picture here as you get closer to the Hudson Valley in New York. A lot here, particularly near the Binghamton area, which is right here just north of the Pennsylvania border. And then as it progresses farther to the south and east, in the early morning hours, you can see 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Friday, freezing rain really starts to overspread the region of northern New Jersey, southeastern New York, getting towards New York City, but not quite there. The main idea to take away from here is that there is the likelihood of some sleet and freezing rain impacting the commute on Friday for those areas of southeastern New York, northern New Jersey, particularly a lot of Pennsylvania, most of Pennsylvania, southern Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, and could lead to some school closures. It could lead to a very, very messy commute for the morning on Friday, going all through the day. As you guys can see, this continues throughout most of the day on Friday before tapering off in the afternoon and early evening. Now, shifting back to the NAM 12 kilometer for a minute here, we're going to talk about a few finite details that could affect the amount of freezing rain, sleet, and overall wintry precipitation that these areas of the Northeast can get. So at this point, we're looking at the mean sea level pressure, which can indicate the strength of storms in this instance. As we progress, you can see that strong building high pressure over the portions of the northern plains west of the Great Lakes is really shoving this storm south into the mid-Atlantic vicinity, dumping all that snow on those portions of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and eventually Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire. But going forward, you notice that as you get later into the morning on Friday, the storm shifts off the coast and then seems to strengthen a little bit towards the end. This would be very key in possibly bringing in more cold air from the north and west. Bearing in mind what I just said, we're going to shift over to temperatures here. Let's notice as we get further into the day on Friday, the cold temperatures definitely do make it to those portions of New York and eventually into those portions of New Jersey and Pennsylvania that I had mentioned. But as you get to 18Z, with the formation of a weak low pressure off that cold front, despite whether or not it's of any strength, you're noticing that a lot more cold temperatures are suddenly being drawn towards the coastline. From the high pressure that's basically pushing cold air into the system, it's bringing this cold air back down to the south and east, which will enhance the potential for freezing precipitation even further south into possibly areas of central New Jersey and even southeastern Pennsylvania. If something like that were to occur, it wouldn't be all too rare. But the thing to note here is if that does happen, expect a lot more colder temperatures on the back end of this thing, possibly turning some of those areas of sleet and freezing rain into straight snow if the boundary layer temperatures start to cool down a little bit. They're not going to be too far above freezing, but far enough to which it will be freezing rain and sleet for those areas that are freezing at the surface and not at that boundary layer. But if a low pressure does form over that area, just off the coast of New Jersey, south of Long Island, expect a lot more colder temperatures to be brought down on the back of this storm as the high pressure over the Great Lakes basically forces it in with the assistance of the low pressure system. After you get past these two storms, however, things do start to quiet down very quickly. After these move offshore, you can see some rain over the east coast into the Carolinas, some snow residuating from some Alberta Clipper over the northern plains, and then eventually another low pressure does form near the Atlantic coastline, Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, but that should not have too much of an impact on many areas. It's mostly going to be restricted close coastal areas where there could be some rain and a little bit of freezing rain. But beyond that, really not too much that there is going to be to discuss. Things get very quiet. You will get some snow over the northern plains. That's just natural for this time of year and this kind of pattern. Looking into the future, however, we do start to see some more low pressure systems take shape. You can see one that does take shape over the Great Lakes and eventually brings some snow up to the north and east. This is very far out, however. This is mainly just trying to depict patterns at this point that we could be observing going into the next few weeks, but definitely something to keep an eye on if we could have another few winter storms like the ones we have this weekend coming this way. But again, as of right now, these precipitation models are really just to show what we could be looking at for patterns later on in the future. When we take a look at temperatures in the future, you're going to see that it gets very cold on the back end of these low pressures, on the back end of these storm systems. So as these storm systems pass off, you can see a lot of cold air takes over most of the United States at this point. See, after the storms move off, this is overnight on Saturday. A lot of cold air taking over the majority of the Great Lakes region, majority of the West Coast into the Rockies, and even some colder air getting into the southern states. Definitely something to keep in mind. You could be seeing some temperatures below freezing for your nights down there in the southeastern United States. And beyond that, with the polar vortex continuing, it's going to remain pretty cold for those areas of the northern United States that are usually accustomed to it. Interesting to note here, however, is that this pattern does seem to continue for the next amount of time. A lot of cold air continues to be pumped from the Canadian territories down into our area of the northern United States, getting into the northeast. A lot of cold air there, and a lot of cold air to be expected probably through March at this point. And again, as we had mentioned from the precipitation maps, doesn't seem like there's going to be too much in the form of winter weather going on for the next week or two, but if there is, I'll try my best to stay on top of it to get out the latest information for you guys regarding the potential life hazards that would come with winter weather. So I do want to thank you guys for tuning in to this winter weather discussion. I hope to be having these out if there's significant weather going on about every other day, but other than that, if there isn't too much going on, every week you should be expecting a discussion on my end. If you guys do enjoy discussions like these, please be sure to leave a like rating down below. I'm going to try and get this channel going again because I know it was going strong back in the spring season when there was a lot of severe weather going on. Not as much going on right now, and I've had more work lately, so I've been tuning out, but I'm trying to get back into it. So if you guys wouldn't mind spreading the word of my channel, please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you are new, and subscribe if you do enjoy the content, and click the notification bell if you guys want to be notified every time I post a new live stream or post a new severe weather coverage or winter weather coverage video. And beyond that, make sure to watch out for more videos from me regarding the potential winter hazards for this weekend and then beyond into the next couple of weeks. But that's going to do it for me. My name is Morgan J. Fuld on the Royal NYR 54 channel. Take care. We'll see you next time.